Seder. So we're going to learn a little bit about Parshas Pinchas, or the story of Pinchas. And the story is basically a story of Kanois, a person that's a zealot. He does acts of extreme zealotry, extreme act of Kanois. And it's such an act that it's halacha ve'morim. This is the law, but you can't ask that halacha. If you came to the Bezdin and asked the courts, are you allowed to do this? You're not allowed to do this. And Pinchas does this act. So we have to understand, what is this act of kanois? Where does it come from? This act of zealotry. It seems to be connected somehow. Kana seems to be connected to kas. It seems to be connected to anger, and that's when it's a very fine line. A person can say that I'm doing something because I'm a kanoi, I'm a holy zealot, and this is a very delicate thing. It's not so simple. It's not a positive thing. Even Eliyahu Navi, in contrast to Pinchas, because Pinchas is Eliyahu Pinchas eventually becomes Eliyahu. Even Eliyahu Navi, after he stands up with a lot of kanois against Klal Yisrael, Hashem actually takes him away. He says that you can no longer be a prophet, you can no longer be a Navi, and he takes it away. But Pinchas, by contrast, he gets a bracha of shalom, of peace. And the bracha of peace, the bracha that he gets, a bracha of peace, is not a medicine or antidote against his kanois, but it's midah keneged midah. It's the cause and effect. He created, through his act of kanois, he created a balance, because the people were connected to the Bnei Moav, which is the women there, so it was connected to a story with an excess of chesed, and Pinchas did an excess of gvura, of the opposite response, and because he did the opposite response, he actually created a level of shalom, of peace. So he created peace. So the Brisi Shalom was actually a result. It was actually what he created. He created shalom. He created peace. So you have to understand this a little bit. What's the difference between these two midas? So we'll learn a little bit from the Arizal. So the Arizal is like this in L'Kutei Torah. He says like this. It's a very cryptic, but this is what he says this is what he says. Parshas Pinchas, Pikani is kinasi. So the pasuk says 3 times the word kina. This idea of 3 times it says the word that is kanois, zealotry. So the Arizal says Kishem Elikim va'Adnai, the name Elikim and Adnai, these 2 names of Hashem. Elikim is connected generally to Midas Adin. Adnai obviously is connected also to Midas Adin, a judgment, a strict judgment. Elikim is also in the Torah, Elikim L'Sa'ar, that when the Torah talks about Elikim, it can refer to a judge. Aleph Daled Nun Yud is also connected to a name of judgment. Literally the word Aleph Daled Nun Yud is Din Aleph. And so the Shem Elikim and Shem Adnai, Elikim is 86, Adnai is 65, so together is 151. That's Kana, Kufnan Aleph. That's one thing. So the pasuk says 3 times Kana. So the first Kana corresponds to the name of Elikim and the name of Adnai together. Then it says Ve'eya, Ve'eka, and the name Eheka, the name which Hashem appears to Moshe Rabbeinu by the burning bush, and it says Eka Sheheka, Bihula will be, which is the name of a becoming, a process, that I'm going to be with you now, and I'll be with you, I'll be with you in all your exiles, Eka. So the name Eka is connected to Kufnon Aleph. How do you get to Kufnon Aleph and Eka? Because the name Eka, Aleph Hey Yud Hey, if you fill out the letters, so Aleph is Aleph Lamed Pei, which is 111. Yud is always 20. Yud Vav Dalet, always in Torah Sarvi, Yud is always 20. Hey is, so it's the Hey, it's the Eka b'milui Hey. So the Hey is Hey Hey. So Aleph Lamed Pei is 111. Hey Hey is 10. Yud Vav Dalet is 20. Hey Hey is 10. So the total numeric value is 151. That's the second one. And then the Shem Eka Birubu. Then it's connected with the Shem Eka, which is in its full numeric value, or squared. How do you do that? You do like this. The way it's created is like this. Aleph Pamim Aleph. 1 times 1 is 1. Hey Pamim Hey. 5 times 5 is 25. Yud Pamim Yud is 10 times 10 is 100. Hey Pamim Hey. 5 times 5 is 25. So again, you have the 151. Hare Gimel Kanois and Nisker Kan Pinchas.
Berevia means?
What?
Berevia?
Squared.
Squared.
Squared. So 1 times 1, whatever the letter is, it's Gimel, so it's 3 times 3. So you take that Aleph is 1 times 1, Hey is 5 times 5, Yud is 10 times 10, and Hey is 5 times 5 is 151. Harry Gimel Kanais and Niska Kam Pinchas Bekanis Kenasi, like Lysias Ben Arizal Bekanis Kenasi, refers to these three names of Hashem, or these 3 numeric values of that's connected. Okay, this is what Arizal says. We don't really understand what he's saying. I mean, we understand it a little bit, but it's not. So in Shiur HaKodesh, which is the next page in your there, Shiur HaKodesh.
Third page.
Third page?
Yeah.
Okay. Shiur HaKodesh. So there's tikkunim. The Arizal writes different types of tikkunim, different types of rectification for certain things that a person does. So he brings down hu tikkun al adam hakoyes. What do we do with a person that has kas? A person that becomes angry. And according to the Zohar Kodesh, anger is, like we once mentioned, is a very, very serious thing. A very terrible, terrible thing, and a person actually loses their soul and loses their neshama when a person becomes angry. So Rav Chaim Vital is writing, my teacher, my rabbi, he wanted to give a tikkun for kas. He wanted to reveal a tikkun for kas, how we can create a tikkun for this idea of anger. He says, he says, we didn't merit actually, everything should be revealed, and most of it I forgot. Ikar is like this. The main idea of what the tikkun for kas is as follows. How do we create a tikkun for the idea of being angry? Li'is kuf nun alav tanesim kiminyan kas. It's to fast 151 fasts, which is kiminyan, the idea, like the same numeric value, is the word kas. Now, kas is actually 150, not 151, right? Okay, so you can add the koilol and say with the word itself, it's 151. But there's something very important that kana, which is connected to kanois, with zealotry, is 151. And kas itself is 150. It's like 1 less than. And he says, what do you do then? L'chav m'shem eke deheim shugimatri kas. And then he's going to say the exact same thing. So you're going to you machaven, you have intention, the name Eka that's connected to the letter Hey, which is Hey 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 Hey. So Aleph Lamed Pei Hey Hey Yud Vav Dalet Hey Hey, which is 151. And then he says you should think about this. You should meditate on this, and you should do it 3 times a day. By Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, and the Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, he's going to say you do the same kavanas, the same intentions that he brought down in Likutei Torah. So this exact same kavanas. He says he's actually not really sure. Rav Chaim Vital says when exactly Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv you're supposed to do this, the 3 times a day. But the 3 times a day corresponds to the 3 times the Shem Adnai with Elokim is 151. The Shem Eka Biribu is 151, and the Shem Eka is the filling out of the Shem Eka is also 151. So therefore you mechaven these 151 these 3 times, and that will somehow bring you a tikkun for kas. Create a rectification for the midah, for the attribute of kas. So obviously we have to understand what kas is, we have to understand what Shem Ek is, and we have to understand everything. So first thing that we have to understand is like this, that there's something about that, like we mentioned, there's something different that kas is connected to 150, and Shem Eka is going to be connected to 151, or Shem Adnai, Shem Elokim is 151. Incidentally, this same kavanas is also connected to mikvah. Mikvah is also 151. So a lot of times for tikkun of kas, you should go into the mikvah. The Arizal says that you'll see some other tikkunim is going into the mikvah. So that's one thing. So it's 1 over. Another thing is that you see that the Arizal is connecting the tikkun for kas, the rectification for kas, for anger, by creating a yichud between 2 names. There has to be a yichud between Shem Adnai and Shem Elokim. When you make the yichud of Shem Elokim and Shem Adnai, when you create a unity between these 2 names, that's how somehow that's connected to a tikkun for kas. That's another thing. The third thing is that it's very much obviously connected to the name Eka. that there is that kas is the opposite of Shem Eka, so to speak. It's like the negative side of kas, which is that Shem Eka means that there's, when I say something is defined, I say this is this, right? I say this is Shem Elokim. It's a midah zadin. It's a midah of judgment. So I'm saying this is what it is. When I say the name Eka, by definition, it means that it's part of something bigger, and it's a process. It's in a context. What does Shem Eka mean? Shem Eka means the name of a becoming, something that's becoming revealed, which means it has a past, it's a future, it's a present, and it's unfolding. So it's within the context of something that's unfolding. So let's try to understand what this means, and to help us a little understand what this means, to understand really what is the idea of Pinchas. Why is Pinchas a hero for doing kanois? Kanois seems to be something that's always a danger, something that could turn into something that's negative. And to understand what exactly was going on. So let's turn to the Baal Shem Tov, and it seems to be connected to this, and we'll see what the Baal Shem Tov writes. So this is the shtickle in the dagel Machna Ephraim, and Parshas Balak. Over here in Baal Shem Tov here. Let's see what the copied over here. Okay. Oh, it's over here. Okay, it's on the bottom, the last one. Isa b'Zohar Kodesh. So the Zohar and Parshas Pinchas, which is Kidu, a very big, it's a very big parsha. There's a lot of Zohar in this week's parsha. So the Zohar in the beginning of Parshas Pinchas says like this: that Pinchas, Kira Pinchas Amem Perech Ba'aver, that Pinchas saw the letter Mem. That's what the Zohar says. Saw the letter Mem was Perech Ba'aver, was floating in the Aver, was floating, and this Mem that's Perech Ba'aver is connected a little bit to mid-period, from the idea of the Chet Eitz Adas, the idea of a separation. So he sees the Mem that it's Perech Ba'aver. The shit of all of Reish Ches, and he connected the Mem with the Reish Ches. What's the Reish Ches? The Reish Ches is 208. 208 is the numeric value of Pinchas. Pei Yudun Ches Samach is 208. So Pinchas, who is 28, which is Reish Ches, which is also the numeric value of the word for Yitzchak, we'll see soon, he sees a mem that's a poireach, he sees a mem that's floating, and he also sees a vav, and through the vav, he's able to make a connection, v'gam vav, and he makes a connection with the letter vav, and through making the connection connected with the letter vav, v'nasa roimach, that's what became a roimach. That's what became a spear. So when it says v'yikach roimach b'yadai, so it says about Pinchas, that what was his act of zealotry? What did he actually do? What was the act of kana? Kana is kinasi yashav, which the Zohar and the Svarim bring down, that he drew down the proper kana b'soicham within Klal Yisrael, within the people. What did he actually do? He saw a mem that is perech. He's the reish ches. He took the mem and the vav. He added to the reish ches, and now you have the word roimach. V'yikach roimach biyadai. He took roimach biyadai. What do you mean? It seems like it was a roimach. It was a spear that was floating, right? It was something that was around and he couldn't take it. V'yikach roimach biyadai. He grabbed onto the roimach, and that's the way he was able to create a tikkun, and that's when the Sat B'Risi Shalom. He was able to reach peace. What does the Zohar mean? So the Degel says like this: "Esvarli fikat sichli kishemati mimori adoni avizikli ki rav hivon shemalchus hu b'lo yichud." Rav hivon, Pinchas saw and understood that malchus, which is also the words, this letter, the word for mem, right? Malchus, mem porech. He saw that the malchus is below yichud, that malchus is not connected, didn't have unity. But how did he see that Malchus is below Yichud? This is fascinating. This is only the Baal Shem can write this. How did he know this? How did he know that there was something on a cosmic level that was incorrect? That there was something misalignment in the temperature of the world? He understood it from himself. He understood that there was something in his own consciousness, in his own being, that was not in the Yichud.
It was dismembered.
Something was dismembered. So when he says he saw that the Olam was Malchus below Yichud. How do you know about Malchus below Yichud? From yourself. He understood it from his own consciousness, and then also Yichud. Then he created a unity, and through the unity, it worked out. Everything worked out. This is the words of the Baal Shem. Vos meintos. But what does this mean? If you look the next page, we'll go back to this Degel. Look at the next page. It's going to show you a few little leases over here. Yeah. Hine, Yud Aleph. This is not from the Degel. This is from the Toldus, another student of the Baal Shem. Hine, this is what he writes. Kol hatzor shaboilam. All the hardships that exist in the world. This is a very big statement, by the way. This is a mega statement. Kol hatzor shaboilam. Nimshach min malchus she'ein li biyichud im doida. This all occurs because Malchus is not in a state of unity with its beloved. And therefore, it's another Torah, but it's the same Torah. When Malchus is not in a state of Yichud with Doida, that's the cause of all hardships in the world. This is where the idea of Roimach is Liyached Havaya V'Adnai. And the idea of the Roimach is to create a unity between Shem Hashem and Aleph Dal Nun Yud. This is the Tolda says. Kol hatzor shaboilam is because there's no yichud. This is obviously a teaching that the Baal Shem Tov gave over, because all the Talmidei Baal Shem are repeating this Torah. The Malchus is below yichud. The Malchus below yichud is all the tzaras. Let's go one more source, which is Yud Gimel. I mean, he brings the same serious. He brings the Mishem Ramban. Kol hatzaras v'pchadim. But then Shemaiti Arizal in Yeremach shekol ha'mechama shaboilam. All wars. The reason why there is war in this world, the chol machshava zar shabbatim, and the reason why there's machshava zaras, the reason why when you're trying to focus on one thing, other thoughts come into your head, and somehow these two things are very much related. Mechamas, that there are wars in this world, and the reason why you have machshava zaras.
It's like an inner battle almost.
But what's the inner battle? So we have to understand some type of inner battle, exactly. This all is because Malchus is not in unity with Doida. And if Malchus be unity with Doida, you wouldn't have Machshav Azars. You wouldn't have foreign thoughts. Foreign thoughts, by the way, is not intentional thoughts. When you're having an intentional negative thought, that's Machshav Ra. That's a negative thought. If you have an intentional negative thought, while you're davening, you say, wait a second, I don't want to daven for now. I would like to think about something else. That's not a Machshav Azar. Machshav Azar means when you're trying to focus on one thing and other thoughts are grabbing your attention. It's different, right? That's a machshava zar. That's why you call it foreign. It's not really foreign. The Kotzker Rebbe once said that they're not really foreign. These are actually really your thoughts. Davening is the machshava zar. These are really what you think about the whole day. Okay, but let's say you're davening now. This is what you're trying to think. And a machshava zar, because now I'm trying to be in one place, but my mind is wandering into another place. What's going on? So this machshava zara is occurring because Malchus ain't be yichud im doida. The Malchus is not connected to doida. When a person actually meditates on this, understands this, and thinks about this correctly, and then a person becomes overwhelmed with awe and tremble of this understanding. And then there could be a unity between yira and noira. Yira and noira is like code words in Torah Baal Shem, but Yira Noira is connected to Akela Gadol Gibur Van Noira. So Gadol is Gevura. Gadol Gibur is Gevura. Van Noira represents Man Noira Malkam Azeh Ein Zek Beis Elokim, which is Tiferes. So Yira Im Noira is Gevura and Tiferes. When there's going to be a yichud of yira, and then all the thoughts will disappear, and there won't be any wars in the world. Let's go back to the degel to try to figure out what this is. Lazar b'kitzur nimrutz. To understand this b'kitzur nimrutz, to understand what this whole thought process is, what are we saying? That there's a mem perech ba'aver, there's a vav perech ba'aver, there's a mem that's floating around, there's a vav that's floating around, there's a reish ches. You have to create some type of yichud. The reason for all the tzaras and all the muhammads and all the machshava zaras that a person has. So you see machshava, mulchama, these are all mems. Like these are mems. The mems are disaligned. The machshava is aligned. The muhammads are what. Some needs to be created. A malchus has to be created. A yichud with doida. And when you do that, you're gonna correct. You can correct everything. Noira and Yira become corrected. Shem Hashem and Admai become corrected. Everything becomes a yichud, and everything works out. So let's go slowly. So the first thing is that the Degel is saying that he understood this. You could read this two ways. You can say he's talking about Pinchas. You can talk about the Baal Shem Tov saying it on himself. It could be everyone. What it means that such tzaddikim have such machshavas, I don't understand. But let's just take Erkeinu according to we understand. Machshavas hacheser shenaflu. There's machshavas hacheser shenaflu. What's machshavas hacheser shenaflu? So, like this. Every single feeling in this world, every single sensation, every single experience in this world is rooted in a spiritual realm, in a positive place. Everything becomes distorted. In other words, there's the essence of the quality of this emotion, and then there's the emotion that now has a narrative projected on the emotion. And then it becomes like layers and layers and layers. But in its core, it's always a positive thing. Every emotion that a person has is a positive thing in its core. Because if it wouldn't be a positive, you wouldn't have it. Now, you can have this emotion on a level that's nefila, that it fell. That's the machshava, the way this midah already fell down. It was nafal. Or you can have it in a very pristine state. So the classic examples, because that's the easiest way to speak about this, is chesed shenafla, like the chesed idea of chesed shenafla, chesed that falls, a distorted form of chesed, or like when chesed becomes in an incorrect way, is niyuf. This when there's some type of promiscuity of these types of things. That's why in the Torah, when it talks about even about terrible acts of deviant acts, the Torah calls it ki chesed. It's an act of chesed, but it's a very fallen act of chesed. It's not a chesed in its pristine state. Now, this goes into a whole long conversation about halas amidus, whether a person should do halas amidus or not. The person should elevate the feeling, because every feeling you say, let me strip it, go to its original place. But we don't have to talk about it that way. Just to understand that there's every midah is a positive thing. The midah is doing something positive. It's drawing you towards something. It's protecting you. It's whatever the midah is. If it's a chesed midah that's allowing you to move outward towards something, if it's a gvura midah that's restricting you and holding you in its core of its midah, it's positive. One of the reasons why a midah becomes negative is because it assumes one dimensionality. It becomes about one particular thing. Let's say chesed. Chesed is, let's say a person is giving, right? So the midah of chesed, there's chesed in the world of toyu, and there's chesed in the world of tikkun, right? So what's the difference of chesed in the world of toyu and chesed in the world of tikkun? The chesed in the world of chaos and chesed in the world of that's mituka, that's already a rectified state. Chesed of olam hatoyu is when the only midah that's being expressed, the only expression that's being expressed is only chesed. And when you're only functioning from a place of chesed and you don't have any interconnectivity with other midas, and you're just about in the being of the chesed, and you don't even have seichel, you don't even have intelligence, you're just being in the midah of chesed, you end up probably overwhelming the person that you're trying to give the chesed to, right? Because you just have chesed, it's a pure emotional chesed. So in its root, it's like a positive thing. But if you just allow it, it's like a snowball, like it compounds and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. It just becomes this thing that's just plowing through things. That's the midah of chesed. The same thing also with gvura. Gvura is a positive midah in its own. It creates restriction. It creates discipline. But if it's just compounded and compounded and compounded, you just shut down. You just become an introvert, totally into yourself, and you completely shut down from any relationship outside yourself. So the root of the midah is positive. And the chesaron of the midah, the reason why the midah becomes negative is when the midah is only functioning in this one dimensionality. When it's just chesed, only chesed, chesed, gvura, only gvura, and then it becomes chaos. Because when I'm feeling chesed, I just want chesed. The other person doesn't want to receive the chesed. Or you're completely smothering the person with your chesed. Doesn't matter. I need to give chesed. Right? So, this is what he's saying. The chesed shenaflu is either it's literally deviant types of thoughts, of chesed, of giving, or it's just only chesed. There's just like this midah of only chesed. So this is what Baal Shem is saying. Pinchas understood this internally, that he felt that there's just one particular sphere, and this actually shows up not only with himself, it's actually showing up with Klal Yisrael, right? They're being with the daughters of Moav. So they're expressing chesed. This, by the way, is actually part of Bilam's plan, the original plan. Bilam tried to destroy them through gvura, which is like the to curse them with the left eye, with the ayin hara, and the left side, and that didn't work. So now he says, okay, we're gonna destroy them using their own game, because Klal Yisrael are Rachmanim, Baishanim, and Gomel Chasadim. They're actually Balei Chasadim. So we're gonna destroy them through the ayin tov. We're gonna give them a lot of chesed, the extreme level of chesed. So he sees that there's a lot of chesed, a lot of expressions of chesed happening, and he sees this within his own self, and he knows that it's naflu. He understands that this is a nefilos chesed, that the chesed is now in a state of fall. V'hizgaber kari. So he himself experiences gevura in this chesed. He said, no, we actually have to stop this flood of chesed. I need to stop it. I need to have boundaries with this chesed. I need to make sure that this chesed is flowing in a correct direction. So this is all happening in himself. Or ourself. It's not so again. It's happening in ourselves. You're saying that I see chesed in this world. I see the world is in this chaotic state of a lot of chesed. In me, it also reflects the midah of chesed without boundaries. So therefore, within me, I'm a kovish esitzrei, right? I'm a mizgaber kari. I conquer myself like a lion. This is midas hagvur, midas yitzchak. This is midas hagvur. This is the midah of gevura. This is what he becomes. He becomes the midas hagvur, right? That's the attribute of gevura. To overcome, to create balance, to constrict it. To constrict the movement. Shemisper reish ches. That's the misper reish ches. Reish ches is Pinchas. So the gevura element is Yitzchak. V'az olu netzutz chesem mishvirasam v'nefilosam v'nizgala b'chinas chesed idei avav. And then the nitzus of chesed that fell, that broke and fell, was revealed in the chesed through the letter vav. Now, what is he saying through the letter vav? Again, this is very cryptic. What he's saying is that Vav represents two things. Vav represents, first of all, the six midas. So Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, that's a Chod Yesod. So he's drawing Chesed into the context of the midas, into the larger context of all the six midas, the six emotional attributes, right? Vav is a chibur. That's what Vav means. Vovim is something that creates a yichud. So he's connected. He's drawing back this chesed that's went on its own, and he's drawing it back into the vav, into the other 6 midas. So now it's not just chesed and chesed. This chesed with a little bit of gvura, a little bit of chesed, varies with a little bit of chesed and gvura. The midas are becoming balanced. Then it becomes actually roimach misper avam shu chesed. Roimach without the vav, reish mem ches is 248. 248. This is already Gemara. The Gemara in Durham says because Avram Avinu is the merit value of 248 because he had he had control over his 248 Avram. So 248 Ramach becomes Avram. So reish ches, which is Gevura, which is Pinchas, now also embodies the quality of Avram, because really what it's now is actually Tiferes. Because now there's a yichud between Reish Ches and Roimach and Ramach, which has created the perfect balance. That's even the Satnas Brisi Shalom. That's why he gets the Brisi of Shalom, of peace, because that's the Shalom. What is Shalom? What is peace? Peace is the harmony. Peace is not a singularity. If me and you are not talking to each other and we're sitting in the same room, that's not peace. If I say something and you're listening to me, it's still not peace. Why Why Dafka Talmid Chachamim? Dafka scholars are bring peace because Talmid Chachamim represents there are 2 opinions in the same Shabbos. I say one thing, you say another thing, and we somehow reach a certain consensus, certain synthesis of our 2 ideas. That's Shalom. Shalom is when you're present and I'm present, and together we create a unity. So Shalom is not the absence of individuality; it's the inter-inclusion of individuals in a greater whole. Right, so Chesed is Chesed, Gvur is Gvur, and Tiferes. That's what Shalom is. So Pinchas reveals Shalom because he's revealing the Chesed and Gvur simultaneously.
Can you say that that's the unification of the mem and the vav because the mem is mipirio, and the vav is reinclusion.
Yeah. Everything in this world is all the dinim in this world. The Malchus is not a state of yichud. What's the Malchus not a state of yichud? That goes back to what we were saying, that the Melchama Shabbalim. That all the Melchamas of the world, all the wars of the world, is because the Malchus is not connected in Doida. What does that mean? So, we have to understand a little. What is war? Why is there war? That's not really the topic, but we have to understand a little. Why do people go to war? Because we have to understand this more in the pneumistic level, an internal level. Why do people go to war? So there's two midas here. There's the midah. There's generally 2 midas of Adam. There's two general midas of a person. Everything else is a variation of these midas. So Chesed word represents these two midas. The 2 midas of a person. One is to sustain its own existence, and one to sustain itself, and one is to be mispashat, to expand itself. This is every single thing has this. Every single it has a nefesh. If it's a tree, or it's an animal, or it's a human being, every single thing in this world expands, takes root in where it is, and makes sure that it has deep roots, that it survives, and it's mispashat, it expands, right? And that's why people have children, etc. These are all things a part of a person's hispashtus. But there's also the idea of the survival. So I need to take root in one thing and be mispashet in another way. So these two midas of hispashtus and rootedness is really chesed and gevur, right? Gevur is the element of being anchored, being for the self, protecting itself, preserving the self. Chesed is the midah of hispashtus. The negative of this expression, so you have, let's say, Avram and Yitzchak, which is chesed and gvura. Yaakov already is mitasa shleim because Yaakov is complete, because that's the whole idea of Tiferes, it's complete. So when Avram is Yotzim and Shmuel, he has Yishmael, and Yitzchak is Yotzim and Esav, so you have Esav and Yishmael, which one represents chesed, unbalanced chesed, I would not say unbalanced, chesed of Toyu, and one represents gvura of Toyu. What's the chesed Toyu, gvura of Toyu? One is gaiva, and one is taiva. The simple The simple opposite of chesed and gvur, the positive chesed and gvur, is gaiva taiva. That's why the Gra and other tzaddikim write in Mishlei that the only two midas that a person really has is gaiva and taiva. And usually they don't work together. Because gaiva is connected to kavod, right? I need to respect me. This is who I am. This is what I want. I need to be. Taiva is I want to be mispashet. Sometimes when a person is a Baal Taiva, they don't care about the gaiva. A person that's arrogant sometimes can be a Baal Taiva because you can't, you want to eat everything you want. No, I have a gaiva. I have kavod atzmi. I can't do it. I have taiva. So taiva and gaiva usually don't work it together. Arrogance and taiva don't work together. But the midah of that, the midah of chesed and gvur, the negative side of chesed and gvur is gaiva and taiva. These are the two midas. The gaiva makes sure that a person is anchored. That's the kavod. That's very strong about kavod. And the spashtus is connected to the midah of chesed.
So Esav would be gaiva, and
Esav is gaiva, correct? And Yishmael is taiva. Yishmael is his pashtus. The general is chesed, like openness of chesed. Now each one has other midas as well, but generally this is the idea. That's why you see also the idea of Esav. That Esav has this quality of kavod. We see this that he's mechabed aviv. He respects his parents. Like even the kibbud av, not aim. Because aim is a different madrega, but Esav is dafke kibbud av. We once talked about this. That
Parshas, 3 years.
Klal Yisrael is connected to kibbud aim, not that they don't have kibbud av, but Klal Yisrael is connected to kibbud aim, and Esav is connected to kibbud av. What is the kibbud of the status? My father, I'm loyal to my father. One is this to real kibbud aim, like for the real thing. That's why in the Gemara we have when Chazal talk about Rav Tarfon and other people that have kibbud av aim, it's actually mostly about kibbud aim, not about kibbud av. And when it talks about Bnei Esav, like the story with the diamond that was the person's hat, all these stories about kibbud av. There's something about this, the kibbud av. But these two nekudas.
Also, that Arizal says to kiss the hand of your mother, exactly. Not the father.
Exactly. This is a very Yiddish thing.
It draws on Shepard.
Yiddish mom. There's something about this. Because the respect for a father is usually, especially if a father has money or power, so it's usually like it's a position thing. But to the mother, you only get love. It's like it's not your money, it's not your position in this world, you're not a kohen or levi from your mother. Your mother just gives you life. It's a different madrega. But the kuda.
You see by Yishmael that he was actually connected to his mother, Hagar.
Yeah, that's correct.
Meaning because it's
that's
a
correct.
hava.
That's correct. I was actually going to mention that, but yes, you're very good. The Yishmael is connected to the hava, and Esav is not connected to his father because that's covered. Where do you get your respect? Not a classic. The classic
loving
world.
Your mother sounds like it's giving love. It's actually giving
it's a love. It's definitely an act of love. Loving your father is always it's this not so much in this generation, but certainly in many generations ago. Your father basically, whatever he built the business. Your father basically gave you the position of who you are. That's your rank. Let's say you're a kohen or a levi, Yisrael, or a duke or a monarch, whatever. That comes from your father, not from your mother. There's something about positioning comes from father. But let's go back to the Milchama. Milchama is that there's Malchus. There's a kingdom. There's a kingdom. Kingdom has Malchus. Malchus is men. Malchus is the kingdom. The kingdom is the majesty of the space. The Malchus of something is not the thing itself. You have a chesed, you have gvur, you have the particular midas. The Malchus is the quality of the thing that's being projected. You're following? You know what the Malchus is? You see something that's regal. What is regal? A person is wearing something, looking something, doing something. It's a composite of all these things. There's certain majesty, a certain regalness that's being projected through this. Right? That's the Malchus of something. See, a person is Malchusdik. A person has like a quality of Malchus. Then there's a nation that has Malchus. Right? There's a kingdom. There's a kingdom. There's a place that has this country, that has this particular place, and these people are living here. And there's the Malchus of this place. There's the kingship of this place. There's the Malchus that's being projected. The Malchus needs to do two things. The Malchus needs to preserve and expand, like every organism in this world, right? Every organism, everything that's alive has these two midas. It has the chesed midah and the gvur midah. So it needs to preserve itself and needs to expand. Now, where does it expand to? I don't know. That's another conversation. But this is the nature of the Malchus. What does war come from? War comes from two things. either the gaiva of the people of this nation were tampered, or the taiva of these people were tampered. Either someone feels like they need it's like a war of expansionist war. I don't know what this type of war that I feel like I somehow have a taiva to expand my kingdom, to like expand it further than my dimensions.
A border war.
A border war. That's just most wars. Or war comes because really you affronted us. You think we're nothing, and you know.
Ideology.
But usually the ideology is that there's a superior or another ideology says, it's a gaiva. It's a gaiva thing. So either all big wars
disrespect.
Yeah. The World War II was started because of stupid disrespect, that the Germans felt like they were disrespected with the Viennese treaty. This is all war stuff. It's the gaiva or the taiva, or they feel like the expansion. Now, Bam is a malchus like a human being, because the human being is a microcosm of what's going on in this world. In essence, really, it's true. Every person has their place where they're anchored, and their place of their ispashtus, right? The place where they expand into. That's why kol mi she'ein lo bayis ein adam. Someone that doesn't have a house, ein mi she'ein lo karka, is ein adam. Is not a person. Why is it not a person? What does it mean? It's not a person. Ein adam means because you have no place for your ispashtus. There's no place for you to expand yourself. There's no place where you can be yourself expandedly. You're always in someone else's space. You're always in someone else's space. You never feel like you can let down the guards. In Chassidus, it brings down this mashal that the melech walks around without his clothes in his house. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the idea. Because it's your house. That's where you're in the spot. If there's one place in the world you can use spasha, it's your house. Right? Every other place, there's some type of code or some type of garment that you're wearing to be in that place. Or else you feel like someone else's home is like your home. That's a nice thing. That the person should feel home. But in general, a home is a place where a person is mispashet. Right? There's something about a place where the human being could feel anchored and be mispashet. Just like is within a person, the same thing is also with a collective, with a group. So we're talking about a kingdom, a malchus, a kingdom, a nation that feels that there's no place for their gaiva and their taiva, and let's say it's in a healthy way. Let's say they place that they feel they're not anchored. They lack of identity. They have to find themselves, or they feel like they have to be mispashet. And so then they go to war. Then they start a war. But the reason why they started a war, what does the Baal Shem say? The reason why they started a war is because Malchus was not beyichadim doida. Malchus was not connected to the 6 other spheres. What does it mean that it was not connected to the spheres? Malchus is the majesty of the presence. The majesty of the presence has to be married or unified with the totality of the inner structure of what's going on. In other words, there's an inner life of the people, whatever these people are. Hopefully it's a healthy inner life. And in the life of these people, of their chesed, their gvur, whatever their life, their story, whatever the narrative of these people are, if they have a certain sense of who they are in this world, where they can be mispashet, and where their chesed is, in a correct manner, then their malchus would be a direct reflection of what's going on their inside. And if their malchus would be a direct reflection of what's going on their inside, they would never need to go to battle. They would be very happy and secure in their place of where they are. That's like I have no taiva to walk into your house, or to own your house, let's say. Why? Because if you feel good in your own home, because your chesed, your gvur, your midas are being expressed in your malchus, in your space, right, in a correct way, then there's no reason for me to go on another list. Akina taiva kavod metzinas adam and olam, right? Kina taiva and kavod takes a person out of this world. That's what it means, because you're not in your space. Kina means jealousy means I want what you want. I don't know what I want. I want what you want. That's what I want. Taiva means I want to mispash it into what you have. Right? Kavod means you're not respecting my space. This is all the same problem. Either it's a chesed problem or a gvura problem. So the root of war in this world is when malchus, the spashus, the revealing of what's of the kingship is not beyichud with its internal life. Maybe if we understand this Machshavas Zaros, it'll work better. How does it work in Machshavas Zaros? How does it work with foreign thoughts? If you're in the middle of davening, and you're praying, you're davening Shemona Esrei, and you're thinking, Hashem Tzvasei Tiftach, you're standing in front of Hashem, I'm present. And all of a sudden, you start thinking about, like, what's for lunch tomorrow? What am I going to have for lunch later? Let's say that's your Machshava. It's Machshavas Zaros, it's not a terrible Machshava, it's Machshavas Zaros. What is it telling me? What is it saying now? It's basically saying to me, if I'm honest, it's saying that what I'm about to eat is much more important than what I'm doing right now. I'm expressing myself now. My malchus now is being expressed because I'm standing on this posture of davening. That's my malchus, my pet. This is the way I'm speaking. I'm saying all these things. I'm being in this position of malchus. My majesty, my presence is being revealed in a posture of tefillah. But the truth is, I'm not biyichadim daida. I'm not connected with my inner life. Because you know where my inner life is? Food. What I really want, where my midas, where am I really lying? Food, other shtusim, other nonsense. I'm definitely not here. How do you know you're not here? Because your machshava is not here. So if your machshava is not present, it's proof to you. You actually have. It's actually a good time to take inventory. You're saying, if I'm having a machshava zara, that means that's what I really want. So the machshava is showing me that my malchus inwardly is not biyichudim doida. What's the doida? The doida is the 6 midas. We're saying the doida is like the doida is the beloved one. The doida is the midas. Where's my midas? Where's my chesed? Where's my gvura? Where's my tiferes? What are I really connected to? What am I not connected to? What do I really want in this world? What are my she'ifas? What are my desires? What are my longings? That's really what's going on in my inner life. And then I present myself, I'm davening. Okay, let's see. Could you daven? If you can daven, then it's proof that there's a yichud between my machshavas, between my thoughts, and my malchus and my doida. Then I know then there's a consistency. It's actually moving forward. But if I see the machshavas are jumping in all different places, that means my machshava, my thoughts, is not biyichud in my doida. Because my doida wants something else. My doida wants to eat food. So by understanding the inner process, so this is like a fascinating teaching. What the Baal Shem is saying is that machshava zaros and milchama, wars and milchama, are both mem perech ba'aver. They're both mems that are floating in the world. What it means perech ba'aver means floating in the world. They're unattached. They're not connected. They're connected to something else, but they're not connected to what you're doing now. You're having this machshava. It's unconnected to what I'm trying to feel now. I'm trying to be present to now. And that's the root of war, and that's the root of all machshava zaros. The root of all these things is the same concept. When there's a mem, that's a perech ba'aver. When the manifestation of things is not attached to anything that's real and true right now. So I can have machshava zaros, and I have these negative thoughts or foreign thoughts, and it's the same reason why there's war. They're interconnected. So let's just read what he says. Therefore, what do you have to do? You have to find the chesed and din, and that's the way you sweeten the din b'sharshay. What is the idea of finding the chesed and din? The idea of finding the chesed and the din, finding the midah of chesed within din, is nimtar din b'sharshay, because then you're showing the inter-inclusion, the connection between chesed and gvura. It's not midas of toyo. Benas Pinchas Avram Veil Toiva Ran Neufel Chena Mais Nachmish Gamzu Sha'amar Gamzu Toiva. The Nachmish Gamzu said Gamzu Toiva, even everything that happened to him, that everything was taken away from him, and all his gold and jewelry, he was going to bribe the king. Everything worked out terribly, apparently. But then he found Bechinas Chesed by saying Gamzu Toiva, saying that even this is for the good. The Arizal actually says that Gam is also a klipa of 43. Gam Zula Toiv, at least even this. Nimtuk v'nasa chesed. That's why in the story the Gemara says that when he threw the sand and it became like spears and became arrows, so Eliyahu Navi said that's actually the Afad Avram. That's the same earth that Avram threw when there was a battle between the 4 and the 5 kings and he was victorious. He threw the earth. That's the same earth because that's the mid of Avram. Yeah, the Gemara says that was the same earth. There's a lot to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it. You can be marich on your own. It's another thing. But there's another concept there. But basically, if we have to bring all these ideas to solidify all these ideas. So there's a lot of hints that the Baal Shem Tov is saying that the Yichud of Havaya and Adnai. What's the Yichud of Havaya and Adnai? Yichud of Hashem and Adnai. Yichud of Hashem and Adnai is Hashem in the Nefesh Adam, is Zohar Ampin, is the Midas. And Adnai, in the Midas Adam, or even on a bigger scheme, is Malchus. So the Yichud of Hashem and Adnai, when he says that's going to create that's the Roimach, he took the Roimach, he created a Yichud of Hashem and Adnai, means when he drew these two things, when there will all be Yichud within him. When he was able to connect the inner thing that is going on within his life to the outer manifestation what's going on out of his life. And the only way you're able to connect the inner thing with the outer thing is when the inner thing is in a balanced way. Because otherwise it goes into the extreme, and then you lose control over it. So when he was able to create some type of yichud between the midas, the reish ches of Pinchas, together with becoming a roimach, which is with Avram, when he was able to integrate the chesed with the gvur with the tiferes, all the midas were integrated within himself. He was able to create a yichud with that. Then, when he was in that state, then the midas become sort of something like this, that when a midah is one-dimensional, you actually don't have control over your machshavas anymore. When you're so entrenched in a certain, let's say a person is very angry, right? Okay, that's like, we're talking about this anger. So let's say a person is very angry, and a person is really angry, that they lose control of their thoughts, you have these crazy thoughts that when you're angry, then 2 minutes later when the anger subsides, it's like, really, that's what I wanted to do? That doesn't make any sense. That's not the approach. Because when a person is so infused into a particular emotion, the machshava is not in a person's control. We have a problem now that we have we have machshavas that are perech ba'aver. You're saying that there's thoughts that are perech ba'aver, that are disconnected from something that's internal, right? We're trying to connect. We're trying to say that we want to bring the mem, right? And we want to make sure that we have control over them, over those machshavas, right? We want to make sure that we have some level of control, some level of power over our thoughts. That our thoughts are don't control us, but we can control our thoughts. How do we do that? What is the mechanism? I'm not talking about the meditative mechanism. What is the inner mechanism of some type of control of the thoughts? Is some type of balance within the midas himself. A child is less in control over his thoughts because a child functions from the world of Tayu, and functioning from the world of Tayu, they're more in the midah itself. So when a child is feeling, upset, you can't even talk to the child, seicheldik. You can't tell them, well, what are you thinking? It doesn't make any sense. Because they're so feeling hurt or feeling upset that their machshavas become sort of tied to the midah itself, that they have no control over the machshava. You're following? So it's some. In other words, the Baal Shem is giving a few different things that he's saying here. There's a few different pieces of this puzzle here. One is that there's chesed b'li gvuli, that he calls it chesed shenaflu, chesed that falls. It's just the midah of chesed that has no boundaries and then eventually becomes something that's destructive, right? So he says you have to use gabakari. So you have to overcome it, and you have to take control of it. So what you're doing is you're creating a yichud between these midas, right? That's the amtak sadin. That's a sweetening of judgment. You're creating a blending of these midas. On the other hand, he's saying there's another sub problem here, which is that your machshavas are not connected to your inner life, right? And your machshavas are not connected to your life. So what do you do? In order to create balance, I know what I have to do. I have to misgab kari. I know I have to make sure that my midas are balanced. I have to use my thought process to make sure that my midas are in a balanced, correct way. And then somehow that's going to rectify automatically that my machshavas will not be parech ba'aver, will not be floating around in the world. Somehow I'm going to have control over the machshavah. That my malchus, my majesty, my manifestation in this world will not be chaotic. You understand? The two things that are coming together. And somehow he's saying that when you do one, this is going to be the result. When you do a blending of the midas, and you have a healthy understanding how your midas work, then your machshavas, which is like the levush, the garments of those midas, are going to be in your control. Like if you start davening and saying, I actually know exactly what I'm doing now. I want to feel, I want to be induced into a state. I want to be present. I want to feel Hashem's presence. I want to feel Kirvas Hashem. I want to feel pachad. I want to feel in Hashem's, and I know what I'm getting into, and I feel fully energized, and everything in my inner life is moving to that place, and I have control of what's going in my life. Then your machshavas are going to be, they're going to be a direct reflection of what's going on in your inner life. The less control you have in the inner life, the less control you have in your outer life. The more balance you have in your inner life, the more balance you'll have in your outer life.
And this is personally and collectively.
This is personally and collectively. So he's saying that Pinchas understood this through his internal life. He understood that if there's machshavas, if there's chesed b'li gvul, that's the problem now. People are just, this demonstrating, expressing chesed with no boundaries in an unhealthy way. And everything is in off kilter and not in equilibrium. So he said, like, what is this midah? What's happening? What's this midah of this chesed? And he says, okay, so in myself, I have to find the same thing. I have to create a balance within my own self. Then he said, there's another sub-problem over here, that because of that, there's a milchama. Whether there was a war or there wasn't a war, but let's say call this like a spiritual war. There's a milchama. That there are one people that are attacking another people. Moav and Midian are attacking Klal Yisrael. Right? And the attack of war, a battle, comes because of what? What's the attack of battle? So he's saying the attack of battle, the reason why people go to war, collectively go to war, is because the midas is not balanced. Because the midas are not balanced, the majesty that's being projected is not consistent with their midas.
Like Bilam wanted to wage war against Klal Yisrael, so he went through the methodology of taiva, of wanting to expand into the boundaries of Klal Yisrael.
That's the same. That's what. Yeah,
which also was Shavazarus to think about these women.
Correct. It's all part of the same problem.
Yeah,
you understand?
Like
it's because the Milchama is a spashtus of taiva without gaiva, for example, or a spashtus of one midah without the balance in the other midah. If a person says, my thing in this world is to be mispashtus, right? All I think about is these pashtas. I need to just express myself into everything. Okay, so then a person has like animals. They have millions of children because that's where you're spreading your seed. That's what I need to do in this world. That's the ispashtus. That's not a healthy ispashtus. But he said, wait a second, my ispashtus should be with my family, with my wife. That's where I'm going to have a healthy ispashtus in a proper borders, right? If I have healthy ispashtus, then I have proper chesed and I have proper gvura. If I have chesed and proper gvura, proper chesed, it's going to reflect in the majesty of the home, in the malchus of the home. It's going to be a reflection of these midas that are in order. Be'erach. It's still not 100% clear. It's still telechach v'yachtamoid. We have to.
If these people also felt contained at home, they also.
And somehow, I just want to say this is somehow connected to what the Arizal is saying also. That the Arizal is saying that kana is against kas, because kas is a midah when you get stuck into a certain narrative, a certain way of thinking, a very narrow or rigid way of thinking. If if a person is driving a car and someone cuts them off, they get angry. It's called like road rage. What's upset? Why road rage? What's this midah? The midah is because I think that if I'm a good driver, I should be cruising at 40 miles an hour the whole time. Now some other guy is moving into my lane. That's not the way I see the world. I see the world of me going 40 miles or 50, whatever I did, to get from point A to point Z. So kas is when a person is stuck in a particular midah. They're stuck in a certain narrative, a certain story. There's no dimensionality to their understanding of life. You understand? It's rigid. It's one way. It's like a child. It's angry. The Arizal saying is, first of all, create yichud. First of all, there's an aleph. That's number one. There's always something that's higher. Just remember there's something higher. And if your kas is coming from a place of kas, and if your zealotry is coming not from a place of higher because your own ego feels affronted by other persons doing a sin, then you're just a kasim. Then it's not common. There's nothing holy about it. You're a sinner. So that remember something's higher. Then remember that everything's shemeka. Everything's part of a bigger context. Things are unfolding in many different ways. And then remember the Shem Hashem and Shem Adonai, Shem Elokim, and Yichud. These are names that are coming together in this world. It's not one. It's not one thing. In the Olam HaTikun, there's always Yichud. There's different storylines that maybe the person's cut you off because their child is sick and they're going to the hospital. You understand? There's other narratives that are, once you understand...
There's other angles, like the four corners.
Exactly. God, this is very good because the Arizal says one of the other tikkun of kas is to look at your tzitzis in the corners. Can't forget that.
There's four corners. And he spashed it's a spashtus of each corner.
Yeah.
But it's the spashtus of every corner.
Because
it's like
because
the wings.
The tzitzis comes out of
it's
the
like wings. The
tzitzis come out of the corners.
Yeah.
It's made some in a charakim. It pierces the corners. You think it's a corner? Makes some in a charakim. It goes further than the corner. There's something about these Torahs of the Torah of the Arizal, which talks about Shem Kana, something definitely connected with the Baal Shem to say. Definitely connected.
That's a good question. Mitzad the kanais of, meaning how does the jealousy? It's not because kina could be jealousy, but kina could be zealotry. So what's the zealotry of Pinchas in relation to the kas? I think the Rav said it, but maybe I just don't understand.
No, there's a
Now, Rizal was talking about jealousy or zealotry when he said
zealotry.
Oh, he was zealotry.
Oh. Kana, no, not kina, no, kas and kana.
Okay.
Nothing to do with jealousy. There's nothing jealous. Zealotry, like a person feels. You have to be a Pinchas. You have to have that midah Pinchas. That's why it's kodesh. It's connected to the Shem Yud. The Yud is the bittul. To be an active if it's negated to you, if it's your personal issue, when you see someone doing something that violates your way of thinking, the way the world works, then you're just angry. That's anger. That's nothing. That's not holy and it's terrible. The one character in the whole Torah that was able to do kanois, holy zealotry, is only Pinchas. That's it. From the whole Torah, there's one person that was able to reach this madrega. There's only Pinchas. It's a very, very hard madrega. And even Liyahu Navi, Chazal say that when he says that I become his kinasi, he says that I did you because the people were even the Zaros. I fought your fight. The Abishur says Brisi Hefer. Hashem told us Liyahu, it's your Brisi. It's my Bris. It's not your Brisi. You're saying it's Brisi Hefer. Brisi, it's my Bris. I know the quality, so it's fine. And Hashem says, okay, you're packing out. You're no longer in this world. So this is a very big madrega. Someone came to Brisker and told him something about someone was a Kamoi in Yerushalayim, that they had a demonstration. They were fighting. The Kamoi were fighting, and he started like shaking, quaking, and he was like, he asked him, I thought it's a good thing. Kamoi says, "Ein molapach efsher misad Yerushalayim. A mol is misad Yerushalayim. Maybe one slap could be maybe say shena bandit. 2 times already a terrible guy." You hit twice already. This is not kanois. Kanois, you're coming from a very, very pure place that it's mamish. You're fighting Hashem's war. Really, who could say that? Everyone's fighting their own personal wars. So there's some people like that. Maybe there's Pinchas and Chadadar Pinchas. But the idea of the kas is when you're stuck in a certain thing, in a certain perception of the way that you think the world. That's why I say kol hakoyes ki lo yaveh d'zar. Yeah, whoever becomes angry is like an idol worshiper. What's the connection? Wasn't kol hakoyes? Because kol hakoyes, if you become angry, it means you say, "I think the world should work like this," and the world doesn't work like this. But who controls the world? So when you're in a kas, you're basically saying, "I deny Hashem's existence. I say the world should work like this, and Hashem says the world works like this, and I think it's better." So if a person has anger, kas, so that Arizal says, if you have kas, l'chav Shem Eka. Think about the name Eka. What is Shem Eka? The Shem Eka is things, multi-dimensional, things are unfolding, you don't know the whole story, things are working at different... Don't get so hits. And also, Yichud Shem Elokim and Adonai, there's different Yichudim with different names. There's a lot of things happening. There's a much bigger story than your narrow perception. And I think beside the concept of Yichud in the Midas, This is what the Baal Shem Tov is saying also with the Chesed and Gvura. That Yikach Reuch B'Yodei was able to make a yichud in his own nefesh between the Reish Ches, which is the Gvura element, and the Ramach, which is Avram's element. When he's able to create a yichud between the Reish Ches through the Vav Mem, the Vav is the Chibur, the Mem is the Mem Perech Ba'aver, because he saw the Machshavas, the Malchus, everything is floating, and he did it within his own self. He created a yichud with his own self, with his own midas, and with his midas with Malchus. That ended the war. That ended the battle, and then it was peace. It was real shalom. So it's a yichud in the midas, and it's a yichud in midas with the machshava.
So the second part, I'm not totally clear. But okay.
How do you control your thoughts?
Well, I don't think you could.
Okay, I'm not when I want to say now your thoughts. Your machshavas.
Well, I don't know what it is. I understand that I can either engage or disengage.
That's it.
That I understand,
Exactly. So forget about controlling. How do you engage or disengage?
So by being mindful of what's going on, and by actually observing and knowing how observing what's going on, and you can really be. Well, again, it has to be, of course. It's like you said. It's like when you're balanced with your emotions.
The fact that you say that you're being mindful, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The fact that you can step out of your thoughts at some level and observe them means that you're not so hitsed. You're not so entrenched, inflamed in the emotion itself.
You're one step removed.
That's it.
You're going from a subject to
Correct.
other.
That's it. Right. So you're in other words. Yeah, but you need to have some level of detachment. And the only way you can do that, that's what the Baal Shem is saying. If your midas are one-dimensional, you can never get out of it. It's like it's a snowball.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
It just is.
It's just driving you. It's just driving you. Exactly. Right. So therefore, you're not in control of your machshavas.
Right.
It says the moment you can move back a little, you can misgaber kari, however you translate misgaber kari, you can overcome, stand back, observe it, tame it. Now, all of a sudden, you're becoming a little bit more in control or in consistency with your machshavas. Right. That's what he said. Because when there's going to be a balance within your midas, because your midas are tempered.
Your actions, right.
Your reflection of that. By the way, your machshavas is also going to be your debur, and also your ma'asim, of course. Right. That's already even more external.
Right.
Everything's going to be more projected in
every machshava has a source. It's like a shoresh.
Correct.
So it's usually something you saw, something you heard.
Correct.
The five senses.
Correct. No, you're right. You're right. So, the machshavas come from the senses, but why you're having this particular machshava right now, while you're supposed to be involved in something else, while not supposed to, well, you intend to be involved in something else. You're choosing to say, I want to be here, but yet your thoughts are somewhere else. Could you end up, I'll give you a very simple example. If you had a thing that you were very much wanted to achieve, and you were very committed to this thing that you wanted to achieve, and you were involved with it in a healthy way, like in a mindful way, that you're really involved with it, you're not going to have machshavas zaros while you're doing it. If your cheshek, your desires, your ratzon, your machshav, your chesed, all your midas are all working in consistent balance to create this result, your thoughts are going to be really consistent with what you're trying to achieve. When there's an inconsistency inside, in your own self, let's say your chesed says, my love, Hashem says, I want to daven now, but my gvur says that I'm tired, or whatever, some other thing. My body says I'm tired. There's no we call it skamas avorim. Not everything's consistently involved in this process. You're going to find your machshava is going to be all over the place.
Maybe that's the yud of Pinchas. He gets his yud. It's like a nekudas hariku. It's like it's almost like he has a. He's like
so if you look at the end of the degel, he says that the yud is the red, is a chacham. So it doesn't say the red, but it says the reish is the chacham.
We can also say, let's say this person has no control, like we have over his thought. He's in his office and he works on his computer and he's over there like 2 hours and he hadn't thought of anything else because he was just so focused. But that person not necessarily, he didn't have any machshava zara on that time, but in the second he's, you know what I'm saying, in the second he's a little bit
Right,
if it's not so in front of him, all of a sudden, that's what I'm saying, his mind is all over the place, and like, you know, like everything else. So
right.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. That because that's proof. You see, when the person has a rikus of machshava, let's say a person is very, the mashal is not such a good mashal because when a person has that, it's not really a sign that his whole nefesh is really involved. Let's say you have a task at hand, but I don't want to do the task, but I have to do the task, so I do it. So I know I need to. I don't know. You need to file taxes now. I don't know. You need to sit down for a half hour and do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. What you know. You need to do something you don't want to do. You have to. So you could say your ratzon is there, your taiva is there, your chesed is there, your love. No, you're just doing. But when you're doing, you're not going to have machshava zaros because you have to. You know.
No, just opposite. I'm saying when it's not concrete, and
Right.
when it's you don't have the task, and
Yeah.
that's when
life comes up.
Exactly.
Right.
That's when it comes up.
Right.
So it's not a concrete thing. So it's
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
Like saying davening, it's like, okay, it's just like,
Right. That's why you have to go from the inside.
oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You must come from the inside. There must be some type of harmony that's going on within your consciousness, within the levels of self,
Right.
that allows you to be present now, that your machshavas will be a reflection of that in a balanced manner.
Chsidim is shonim and shonim shuach. Kohen Atfilah.
Yeah, the shadows
In
what
that
shoyim
case, what is shonim?
So there's machlokes with the Rambam and the Ram. What does shoyim mean? So the Rambam says that they practice the mashkita machshavasayim, that they would quiet their minds. So they require their minds to enter into a state of davening, which was brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. It's in the Shulchan Aruch. That you have to stop. And the Ran, this is what the Ramah brings down, that they thought about Galas Habar Shiftas L'Adam. So Shoyim Shal Achaz was actually a thought, not a stillness, not a quietness. But the Ran says Ashkata, literally, that they required their minds. But you have to imagine they did 3 davenings. Shoyim Shal Achaz Kodim Atfilah Achar Atfilah. So 6 hours a day they were shkita. They were shaket. The Gemara asked, so Torah, what happened to Torah? So there's the 2 gisois. There's a Bavli Gersa and a Yerushalmi Gersa. The Bavli Gersa is Torah Mishameres. The little Torah they learned was Mishamer. It was protected. The Yerushalmi's version of this Gemara in Brachas is Torah Mevarachas. That they got even more. Like they learned a little bit, but because they were so in the place of stillness and silence, that the Torah was a Mevarach. It became even more. So you can spend the whole day learning. What's the shimur of that? How much bracha is that?
If someone doesn't have to quiet their mind,
Yeah.
no doubt that the Gemara is
Come on
not
that level
deep.
where
Yeah, or as deep, or as memorable.
Just
As
thinking
interesting.
come on that level that
Everything you learn in
that everything is there. It's just like,
Yeah. Oh, that's all one level.
it's
That's the level
maybe a
of
step above, you know.
that the word is that Malchuderch v'ra Elon v'amar man na Elon zo. The Mishnah says there is a Messiah benafshe. That if someone's walking down the street and he says, "How beautiful is this?"
Yeah.
The pasuk in Mishnah say he stopped learning and he said, "Man na Elon zo." There is a Messiah benafshe. So the tzaddikim say the pshat of the Mishnah is like this: that if someone's walking down the street and he sees a beautiful tree and he sees it as a hefsek in Mishnah, he sees it as a separation, but that's not learning. And I was learning Gemara, and now I'm seeing a tree. Then he's Mischai B'nafshe. He's liable for his nefesh because there's no separation. When you see that, you see everything is there. Oilam is a Rosh Torah. There's a lashon of the Shalach Kodesh that the Torah is a Rosh